Hello, my dear friends and all others. Welcome to my channel and to my very first ever response video on YouTube. I am Sylvia Hartmann. I'm the creator of Modern Energy, and I've been listening to many voices on YouTube for quite some time to get a sense of what's going on in the world, and have come very, very close to make response videos before, but this time I just couldn't not. And even though I am slightly nervous, I am going to go because this is a topic that I just can't not talk about. So my response video is to the lady from Ready to Glare channel, a wonderful young lady with much intellect and great opinions. And I don't know what your name is, so I'm just going to call you Ready for now. And I'm going to go into it. So this is about shifting, and particularly it's about the video Ready to Glare made about shifting. And oh, where do we start? I just was like, oh, so many emotions, so many things. First of all, the absolute joy that there are these teenagers who've been locked into their bedrooms in the 2020 global pandemic, who have found the true human escape. That is shifting. Well, that's, they call it that. I call it something else. I call it Project Sanctuary or Supermind these days. That's its new name since 2016. And I am an expert on shifting. I'm going to say that I am an absolute expert on shifting. I've been doing it for at least 55 years, probably closer to 60 years. And it's been the joy of my life. It's been an absolute lifesaver. It's been a sanity saver. It's been the source of my creativity, which is documented in the fact that I have written a full-on fiction trilogy called In Rain. I've also written fairy tales and endless amounts of stories. But what I actually am is a human researcher, if you want to call it that. Now, you can look up my history and my past and my publications by all means. That's not why we're here, but we are here to talk about this thing that is the joy of my life, my sanctuary, shifting, and why I'm an expert on it. Let's go. I mean, I've been doing this thing all my life, where you go into a place where you are having experiences that you're not having in physical reality, because physical reality is either boring or horrible or nasty, or you are confined in a prison cell or in a hospital bed, or as I said, right now in 2020, in lockdown in your bedroom because the family is fighting out there, so you can't go anywhere else. So yeah, there's 1,001 scenarios in this so-called I'm not even going to call it that, in the hard life, that I call it the hard life, where you want to escape. Duh. And human beings have the ability to do that. They have the ability to do that. It's a most wonderful, wonderful thing. I thought, among the many points that I want to address here, first of all, which Reddy made, was that that she's worried that it's a cult-like thing, this shifting, because some people are better at it than others and therefore gain some kind of an advantage. And I want to address this right from the bat, because I started sort of my outward experimental work with other people, my research with other people on the topic of shifting, aka Project Sanctuary, in 1989. In 1989, I set out to find out if other people can do this too. Normal people, normal people. Oh God, you have to watch my live stream on Sunday. I'm going to have a diatribe about that. This was my question. This was my core question. Can other people do this too? Because without any internet and any sort of place in the heart where you can talk about these experiences, I honestly thought all along as a child that everybody does it, they just don't talk about it. I thought that everybody, gets themselves into a quiet corner and then they leave this thing they're living in behind and they go into this infinite space of freedom and have fantastic adventures there, which I've been having ever since I was a tiny child. As far back as I can remember, there was this other world where I could have the toys that the adults wouldn't buy for me, where I could have a miniature zoo in my bedroom, under my bed, where little tiny elephants lived, and you had to look after them and make sure that they were fed and the rain wasn't too hard for them. Because like normal raindrops, they're really big for tiny little elephants. I was doing this as a child, and it helped me survive the insanity, the absolute insanity of my upbringing, of my childhood trauma. It was okay, because there was this other world that I could visit and have a good time. And it provided the counterbalance between the craziness of the hard and the fun and game and absolute freedom and joy of discovery in these other worlds, which I always thought of as sanctuary. It's a sanctuary, absolutely. While we're at it, and there's lots of things, but I need to say this, that I work with a three levels model. You've got physical reality, that's your physical body, the physical world, trees, plants, all that stuff. And then you've got sort of the energy worlds where everything is made of energy, but it's metaphorized when we think about it into landscapes and stories and what have you, with components that we can mentally get a handle on. In between the energy worlds and the physical reality, there's this bandwidth that I call the hard. The hard is the thing that human beings have constructed. That's your laws, your taxes, your houses, the fashion, the societal constructs, the identities. That's all hard. That's in the hard. And I call it the hard, not because it's hard, but because it makes it so hard for people, human beings, to live here. These three levels together make up our experience sort of reality absolute, if you will. And we do need to use that term, reality absolute, because it's funny, my ex-husband used to tell me to get into the real world. What he meant by that is to get on board with what's going on in the hard, to behave like you're supposed to behave in the hard. But his daily exhortations over 25 years to get into the really real world, turns out the really real world is not the hard, and it's not just physical reality, but it's those three levels interacting together. So that's needed to explain that. And it's not a digression at all, because the hard is really very hard for human beings to exist in. It is. It's because it's not natural. It doesn't have a natural cause and effect. In the physical world, if you plant a tree the right way up and you water it and you do everything right, chances are it's going to grow and you get a positive result. In the hard, because it's constructed by people, this is not the case. You can work hard all your life and be a really good citizen and still end up broke and hated by everybody and disappointed, even though you did the right things. Where's the cause and effect gone? And this has driven people crazy over the millennia. If you squish those three all together into one sort of thing that's just one reality, what people talk about as reality is actually a combination of physical reality and the hard. the real reality is bigger than that. And it includes these mysterious energy worlds. And there, all things are information, and we have actually the ability to leave our bodies and have our consciousness travel into these other realms. So going back to why I'm an expert on this. 1989, I had an experience. I still believed that everybody was doing the shifting, they just didn't talk about it. And in 1989, I had a friend, and she had a weird dream about a policeman from her village, and she told me about it. And for the first time, I actually said to her, because I felt we were close enough for these sort of conversations, I said to her, well, why don't you take that into Sanctuary and play it on? Because in her dream, what had happened was that she'd been in the stable looking after her horse, and the local policeman came in, and she woke up with a start. So the dream didn't play out. And clearly, you know, obviously, what you need to do is you need to step back into that dream habitat and ask what happens next. The policeman has turned up, and what happens next? And so I told her about this, and she was like, wow, never heard of that. Sanctuary, what are you talking about? And I honestly still thought that this woman was kind of brain damaged or unnormal, that everybody was doing shifting. They were just not talking about it. But it turned out that she had no idea, and she wasn't doing this. She was not living in 10,000 different realities, having all these amazing experiences, as well as cleaning out the horses in the stable and doing stuff with her husband and whatever else. So, well, anyway, on this particular occasion, I had her go back to that, okay, remember where you were when the policeman turned up and what happens next. And she just went bright red and shouted, oh my God. And it turns out that she ran up to the policeman and started kissing him. And until that moment, she had had no idea that she was sexually attracted to the local policeman in the village, and was much shocked and surprised and amazed by this. But this now put the question to me, okay, so she's not playing at shifting. She's not. She has never done it before, but she can do it, as the policeman example shows us. She can do it. I wonder what other people do. So I kept asking people sort of little questions without revealing too much. And there was an artist friend of mine who had things about trying to do out-of-body experiences. And he was doing this the hard way with, I don't know, trying to hurt himself or produce so much pain that his mind would leave his body. Trauma response type of thing. The old Sundance ceremonies, to force people to do that movement that happens in shifting, where you get out of your physical body. Whoosh, you got out of it. And you can be somewhere else, anywhere else you want to be. And to him, again, I said, well, why the hell don't you do that in Sanctuary rather than cutting yourself with razor blades? And he's like, Sanctuary, what's that? I said, that's the place where you go and play, where you learn stuff, where you fly. And he's like, wow, I didn't know such a place existed. But once I told him, it was instant. I mean, it was instant. He immediately understood it. He knew how to do it. It was easy. It was natural to him. He could do it. So this went on for some years, 1989 to 1996, where I finally had asked enough people and found enough evidence and had found a simple structure to have them do the shifting. And that was the classic game from Project Sanctuary, first published in 1996. And it revolves around the classic game, which simply asks 6 questions to take your conscious mind, your conscious attention from here to there. And it's a wonderful thing. It's beautiful. So it's 1996, published a book. And from 1996 till 2016, conducted research experiments to find out how bad it was for them to do this thing. What would happen if you did this with people? All sorts of people. People with mental problems, people with physical problems, people with no problems at all. A fisherman on the beach, you know, person in a queue, groups of people doing Project Sanctuary research stuff, like the Soul Pilots from 2000 and I think until 2005, 2006. You know, I have been conducting experiments on the effects of shifting or playing Project Sanctuary or doing supermind, as we call it now, for all those years. And I can state with absolute 100% clarity that doing that is good for you. It goes further. It goes much further than that. It's not just good for you. I'm sure you've all heard that, like, we only use 10% of our brains or something like that, our physical brains. Well, what are the other 90% for? They are for what you experience in shifting. Shifting isn't something that we do or that doesn't, it's not escaping from the real world. It is adding a component into the real world, the really real world. You know, the reality absolute, as I call it, that people are built for, that people are supposed to do, that people should know a lot more about, and that very importantly is not anomalous. Reddy quoted a anomalous therapist as that's so wrong. It's not anomalous. It's an ability that naturally exists in human beings. And that, in my opinion and in my experience now, is designed to teach you those things that you cannot learn in the heart or in physical reality at all. But the things that people need to know about reality absolute to understand how human beings really work. So I'm going to say that one more time. The experiences we have in shifting produce experiences, learnings, star events that you cannot have in physical reality. You can't have them. It's not an either or. It's not Reddy mentioned about wanting to buy a house with your boyfriend in the heart. That is classically hard and physical reality. Hard and physical reality. That's what that is. And then she juxtaposes this versus dreaming about your sanctuary. And in Project Sanctuary, the very first thing we tend to do in Supermind is to create the perfect place in time and space for you. That's your first habitat where you learn how to do this, which is a landscape that has a house that is perfect for you right now, where you can go and create this house exactly as you need it in the right landscape, so that all the energy from that is perfectly nourishing, supportive, and beautiful. And then you decorate your house and you might get yourself some pets. And this is nothing like those farm type video games. It's nothing like that. It is a lucid reality. It is shifting into this other world. And it's not an either or. And they are, most importantly, not supposed to be in conflict. They're most importantly not supposed to be in conflict. In Sanctuary, we can learn what our perfect place in time and space would be. We can try it out. We can try out living in it for a while. It's hilarious, you know, like somebody once made this classic pop star mansion type thing, and they moved in and they found out they hated it because there was always people around and the phones were always ringing, and they couldn't really relax in the garden because there were gardeners everywhere and pool cleaners clattering around and maids and butlers and visitors. I absolutely hated it. And this experience in Sanctuary gave them a completely different idea of which house to go for, or to what to do with your sort of goals in life without having to learn that first the hard way. Think how long that would have taken that person to figure that out. So they first would have had to become a successful pop star, buy their house, you know, have that experience, realize that it was actually not what they wanted in the first place. And that could have taken decades, could have taken to the end of their lives. People building the wrong sort of thing for themselves in the heart, and only realizing when it's too late that it wasn't what they wanted all along. Now, in Sanctuary, you can learn this in a day. You can learn this in a week, in a month, and then you know something. Then you've learned something that you don't have enough time to learn in the heart or in physical reality. Okay, so yeah, so in 2016, I created the final version of my shifting, which is called Supermind. And it's called Supermind because shifting is a cooperation between the conscious mind and the energy mind, the dear energy mind, previously known as the sub or unconscious mind, and it's neither. The conscious mind and the energy mind are supposed to work together. They're supposed to work together and become one. When they do, that's when we have supermind solutions. Even if they just click together on the same page for 30 seconds. That's when we get these real genius ideas. Then we start to think like human beings are designed to think. Not like bean counters, not like autistic people, but with this, what you can only call sacred intelligence. I'm going to say it's sacred intelligence. And dear Reddy, please, this is not a cult. This is not a cult. I have followed my research honestly and truthfully for all these years, actively starting in 1989, and really carefully tried out various things with people, got their feedback, developed patterns, tried the patterns, readjusted how we go about this, how we do this, how to keep it really safe, and how to just activate this true human ability of our conscious minds to go anywhere we want. Into this comes also getting in control of memories. This is super important for people who have been severely traumatized in some way, and especially child sex abuse survivors and such. It is super important to learn how this works. PTSD survivors have flashbacks. We have got, outside, as far as I know, of my work, no proper way of dealing with people's memories. And the thing is also this, after all these years, something that I've absolutely learned in Sanctuary. Sanctuary works by shifting, if you want to call it that, by asking the energy mind, please take me to the perfect place in time and space for me right now. This produces positive experiences. This produces nourishing experiences. It produces so much stress relief. But it also is the very beginning of learning how to use our minds in a different way. Now, I've written this morning, before I finally decided to make this response video, I've written a basic instruction how to do this shifting thing for the keywords, and in the hope that somebody will see it. And the first thing we start with here for beginners or people who want to get better at shifting and want to do that safely is we start by entering into a positive memory, a star memory, a high positive memory. This doesn't have to be a childhood memory. It can be any good memory. So if you, I don't know, 3 weeks ago had a moment where you sat in the sunshine and the wind was blowing and everything was quiet and beautiful, and perhaps you saw trees in the breeze or anything like that. So a moment of real happiness. That's a memory. And this memory is sort of what we call a habitat. It's this world in a bubble. And what we do is we go into that with our conscious mind to make that switch from here to there, From here, for example, me here sitting recording this, to there, me standing in the garden and watching the tree in the sunshine. That is a super safe way to start activating this skill, this ability, this human superpower, this star power that we were given, we human beings, all of us, by design from the great creative order. You know, it's something that we can do. It is not anomalous. It's just never been used properly. It's never been described properly. It's never been properly encouraged. And it's just the most beautiful, beautiful thing. The most beautiful, beautiful thing. Now, as far as the making the mental health of people worse goes, objection goes, the thing is, whatever mentally ill people do is going to be somehow making it worse. Doesn't matter what it is, whether they listen to sad songs or whether they watch horror movies or whatever it is that they're doing is going to be a problem. You know, everything. If they start knitting, they probably start knitting demons. Knitting isn't the problem. The mental health part is the problem. And this goes for absolutely everything, you know, that goes for absolutely everything. The mental health part is the problem. If somebody has mental health issues, then it would be really nice if they started, especially with, you know, my method, which is super safe and has been developed in all these years from all these experiences with all these people, is to start either asking for the perfect place in time and space, or to actually just go to a good memory for a change. I'm not going to start on how the trauma obsession of the Western world in the past 120 years has ruined us as people, how it has sent us in the wrong direction, how it has stopped us from discovering cures and solutions for this whole trauma PTSD thing, and how it has most importantly just stopped us from wanting to engage and interact with our own memories, with our own abilities. And shifting is one of those abilities. You torture people enough, they will shift. But you don't have to torture people for shifting. You don't. You can invite them to start shifting towards a better place in time and space, a freedom space, a space where we can play. And I know that the young TikTokers, of course, are not going to listen to me because I sound like their mother or their grandmother or something. And, you know, that is a huge shame, because I might be 61, but I shift. I love it. It's beautiful. And I am a child in the multiverse until the day I die. The classifications of old women versus teenagers who have to hate me, and all of that evaporates in Sanctuary, because there we are all just children, we are all just playing, and we are having these experiences that are actually capable of evolving us. And also we're having these experiences that cannot be had in any other way. They are valuable, they are priceless, they are the key to human evolution, healing and development. And I absolutely would not be alive today without shifting, without Project Sanctuary. It's a lifesaver. It's a sanity saver. It is wonderful. Dear Reddy, I can really understand that you are protective and hugely skeptical of everybody who promises good things. I understand that. I was also hugely skeptical. And because of that, I went along and did my own research discovered my own things, ran my own tests to, you know, really be sure that what I'm saying to people is beneficial, even in the long term. That this is not just something that's, you know, that seems good, but then has terrible repercussions, like heroin, for example, or joining a cult. It's exactly the opposite. And one of the reasons I've been really quiet about all of this is because I wasn't entirely convinced myself that this would be a good thing in the long run. But 30 years of this, it is a good thing. I am convinced. I was convinced in 2016. That's when I created the Supermind program, which is a streamlined, simplified, easier, more joyful version of the original Project Sanctuary. So yeah, that's my response video to the shifting situation. This is something that needs to be understood, is not anomalous, it's human. We do that. It needs to be, in my opinion, it needs to be encouraged and embraced. It would have been absolutely lovely if these young people who discovered this for themselves, as young people do, you know, as I did, they had a little bit of guidance and a little bit of encouragement. And I think a really good indicator that it is good for you is something that Reddy noted, which was that the community seems kind and encouraging, which is the exact opposite of what you see on Twitter, where everybody is tearing each other apart with demon claws and red, fiery eyes. It may seem, I'm not just even saying it may well be. Shifting makes us happier. It has that power. That in and of itself, to take away that sense of helplessness, that there's nothing I can do. Yeah, there's something I can do. I can go on strike. I'll go somewhere else. And even though you can physically confine me, even though you can try to build cages of entrainment for my conscious mind, even though you can try and tell me what I can say and what I'm not allowed to say, even though you can tell me what I'm not allowed to think, even though you can punish me and control me physically and in the heart, you cannot stop me from escaping into that infinite space of joy, of creativity, of freedom. And that is the true wonder of being a human being. So, dear Reddy, thank you so much for your video. It has finally brought me out, and I had to say something about that, because shifting is, well, the joy of my life, my healing, my salvation. And I believe it goes further than that, but I will leave it at that. So thank you for all your videos, dear Ready to Glare. I've left a link from my tiny channel to yours in the comments below. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep asking questions. It's the only way we can get to better solutions, to really better solutions. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video on some level. If you would like to hear more, if you would like to learn more about what I've been discovering, what I've been working on, please subscribe. You can Google me as well. I am still wanting to make the world a better place. I'm still wanting to make people happier, which I've been wanting since I was 2 years old and saw everybody dancing in a crazy Muppet dance of stress and said, oh my God, what's going on here? Why is everybody so unhappy? Let's make the world a happier, a better place for everyone. And yeah, I've written a little sort of intro on how to do shifting safely. If you talk to a youngster who does that, please mention it to them that they should start with a good memory of their own, to practice the six senses, to practice being there, and to come back and feel how your body feels better because of it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.